Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Show, where I'm going to be answering your questions around trauma bonding, because I do get a lot of emails asking me questions like, what makes me vulnerable to trauma bonding? How can I tell? What are the signs and symptoms that I'm in a relationship that is trauma bonded as opposed to one that is based on mutuality or true love? So I'm going to be giving you all the trauma bonding 101 that you need to know to protect yourself and your relationships in this episode. So before we get moving, please, if you happen to be new to this YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, because I want to make sure that you get notified every time I roll out something new, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday. And I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. So you subscribe and hit the bell icon, and then it'll be me tapping you on the shoulder being like, hey, you don't want to miss this. I also love to share your comments and your questions. You guys know I love all the activity that happens here, and I answer pretty much all your questions. So I want to say thank you so much to Callie. This is under the episode 5 Steps to Curate More Self-Love in Your Life. And Callie says, thank you so much, Terri, for sharing the story about your loving husband. It brought tears to my eyes. It touched my heart deeply to know that there are kind, loving, conscious men in our world that really want to honor and cherish their women/wife. By the way, I promoted your boundary work to copious amounts of people, both women and men, and wholeheartedly appreciate the work you're doing for boundary setting. After ending a marriage with a covert narcissist, your book and videos have been a part of my healing and growth. Infinite gratitude to you, Terri, from the empathic and empowered sister. Why, thank you so much, Callie. I'm so glad you got out of that situation, and I'm so happy that this material is helping you be more empowered in your life, because that is the exact reason why I put it out there. All right, so let's move into today's content. So, trauma bonding. What is it? This is the way that some relationships, how we become emotionally attached to other people if we have a predisposition toward this. This happens gradually, basically over time, that it's revealed as a trauma bond, but the relationship itself happens very quickly. So how do you know if you are in a trauma bonded situation? So let's just say, what are some of the signs of trauma bonding? Well, first of all, usually those relationships start fast and furious, right? There is attraction. A lot of times there's an incredible amount of sexual chemistry. It's a very physical relationship. This is something that can feel like it has a life of its own. It's like overwhelming to you, right? Where you almost feel like, whoa, it's almost like being swept up in some kind of a tornado that isn't you, but it really is. So let's just talk about the term itself. Where did it start and what is it? So this is a term that was coined by a Dr. Patrick Carnes, and he's the founder of the International Institute for Trauma and Addiction Professionals. And he's a clinician, actually, whose work I have really respected over the many years. I've read many of his books, and it's helped me with many of my clients over the years, because he's an expert at many things, but also sex addiction is one of them. So in his book, The Betrayal Bond, Breaking Free of Exploitive Relationships, what he does is he defines trauma bonding as the misuse of fear, excitement, and sexual feelings to entrap or entangle another person. So think about that, the misuse of fear, excitement, and sexual feelings to entrap or entangle another person. All right, so what does this actually mean? And how do you know if you are trapped in a trauma bond? You probably, if you're in a trauma bonded situation, there's a part of you that knows it, right? What is the telltale sign of a trauma bonded relationship is that they go through periods of intense love and excitement, followed by periods of neglect, mistreatment, and abuse. So it's a cycle for sure of being devalued and then rewarded over and over. And this is where intermittent rewarding comes in, where there's just enough reward, where the person may be ignoring you and maybe rejecting you, but then you'll get the positive reinforcement from them, and you want that so badly. And the intermittent nature of the way they interact with you makes you more and more desperate for their approval. And the thing is, this actually creates hormonal and chemical bonds between the two people. And you're really talking about a perpetrator and a victim. That's really what a trauma bond is. But this bond, the way that we are sort of tethered to the other person, can make it really, really hard to leave, no matter how toxic the relationship is. Because I would find with my clients, a lot of times, you know it. Like they would know. So if you're a victim of trauma bonding, you might know the relationship is unhealthy, right? You might, in your heart of hearts, be like, I should get the hell out of here. But you cannot seem to get yourself out. And if you do leave, you may find yourself coming back again and again because the feelings and the draw to that person is so strong. And this is what I see in my therapy practice, is that people will mistake this for true love. And we get a lot of these bad images sort of in TV, movies, romance novels, rom-coms, where people will talk about, the person makes you crazy. You know what I mean? I gotta be honest and say, I've literally never felt that way about my husband because we're not trauma bonded. That can frustrate me at times, the same way that I can frustrate him, but it's not this crazy fighting and making up with sex type of a thing. When you're trauma bonded, the line between love and hate and love and abuse is so thin. And what we're really doing in a trauma bond, it's not loving, right? It's a cycle of abuse is what it actually is. But a lot of times my clients will be like, I have no control over this. This is happening to me. This must be true love. So it makes it unclear about what is true love and what is unhealthy love. Because here's the thing with trauma bonding, there are high highs, like, wow. And then there are really low lows. And those intense feelings of excitement, passion, drama, it's all so stimulating. And in its own way, it's all so addicting. So a couple of signs and symptoms, if you're like wondering, like, is it me? See if you see yourself in any of this. You make excuses for the other person's behavior, right? This is something that is almost always present. You feel like you can't explain your relationship to your friends and family. In the relationship itself, you wish you could go back to the beginning when things were super amazing. And of course, this is probably when the other person was intentionally or unintentionally love bombing you, right? I've done a whole episode on more than one, probably on love bombing, because it's something that it's so important to know about, and it's very common, where the person is just a deluge of love and dopamine and positive feelings and gifts and amazing sex and all the things that it's almost like shock and awe. It's so overwhelming. And there's a part of your brain that's like, dude, this is too good to be true. And yet the other part of you that is just high on dopamine is like, I don't even care, right? So it's really easy to get sucked in, because manipulators, right, perpetrators who are manipulators, are really good at knowing how to manipulate us. I mean, that's what it is. Another symptom is that you let a lot of stuff go. You let shit slide that you know you shouldn't, but it's not worth the confrontation. You don't want to get into it, quote unquote. You feel like you can't live without the other person. Like, actually, it feels almost like if you do finally leave them, the pain is so intense. You really feel like you might not make it. You love this person more than anyone in the world. But also this person has hurt you more than anyone in the world, more deeply, more consistently than anyone in the world. Another symptom is an imbalance in power, right? Where one person has more power than the other person. So the perpetrator has more power than the victim. Another thing to think about is, how often are you walking on eggshells? That is a sign that if you feel like you have to walk on eggshells, because if you don't, you could set the person off at any moment. And another sign and symptom of being in a trauma bonded relationship is that deep down, you're kind of ashamed that you're staying or that you keep going back to the person. So a lot of times we have these experiences in isolation, right? Because we're ashamed, we're embarrassed that we're putting up with this treatment, but we're like so addicted to the dopamine and the cycle, and it really becomes like a drug. And I want you to think about it from this point of view. If your best friend, if your adult daughter was in a relationship with someone like the relationship you're in right now, would you want that for them? Would you be happy for them to be having the experience that you're having? And if the answer is no, that is very revealing. And it's something that you really have to think about for yourself, because it's so much easier to look at someone else and want something different for them, especially a kid or a niece or someone that your best friend. But I want you to think about yourself, hold yourself in that same high esteem that you hold them in. Trying to end a trauma bonded relationship, it feels so threatening in a primal way. And every psychological defense mechanism, right, in your arsenal unconsciously is going to be used to keep you in this toxic situation. So there has to be a moment where you take a close look at what you're doing with your one and only beautiful life, right? And I think that maybe it will help to have the juxtaposition of what is happening in a healthy relationship that might not be happening in your relationship if you're trauma bonded. There's mutuality and respect in a healthy relationship. There's compromise. You talk about important things. A lot of times in a trauma bonded situation, because it happens so fast, like a lot of times you don't really deeply know the person, but you also don't talk about important things, because if you got real in the relationship, you would know the relationship was going to have to end. In a healthy relationship, you hold each other in high esteem, right? You assume the best when there's conflicts or there's disagreements, right? We're not assuming that there's intentional harm. In a healthy relationship, you both feel empowered in the relationship, right? You're able to be voluntarily vulnerable with the other person, right? Without fear of them using it against you. You know, I remember one time, when Vic and I still had the city apartment, and something was happening, and I was so overwhelmed that I was so upset about something, but I was really unaware that I was kind of taking it out on him. And it wasn't even a big deal. Like whatever the thing is that that he said to me, I just started crying, which is unlike me. Not like I don't cry, but not like this. And I remember I was just standing there. And I was like, whoa, whatever I was saying. And he was like, oh, come here, come here. Like I was accusing him of something he wasn't doing. I was being like mean, basically. And his face, like I could cry thinking about it right now, was so, well, it was so Vic, but it was so, instead of being defensive about me acting like an idiot, he just had so much compassion on his face. And he was like, come here. And I went over and sat on his lap. And, you know, he went on to be like, babe, what's really going on? Because he knows that isn't my normal way of being. But it's still, to this day, that was probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And to this day, it still really touches me deeply, because that's what healthy love is, that there's some kind of an agreement that at least Vic and I have, that like you can't both crack up at the same time. So if I'm not at my best, which I wasn't in that moment, that Vic would be able to stand up for the relationship, that he could stand up for both of us and not be petty and not be defensive in that moment, because generally that wasn't my way of interacting, right? So my ability to be vulnerable with him is based on years of proof that we're both emotionally trustworthy people, which you don't have in a trauma bond, because neither really is emotionally trustworthy, because you can't even trust yourself. If you're the victim in a trauma bond situation, you can't trust yourself to protect yourself. And the other person, if they're the perpetrator, you can't trust them not to harm you because they are harming you. So if what I'm describing in a healthy relationship feels really far away from you, and don't worry, you guys, I'm putting all of this in the guide for you, terricole.com/guide. I just want you to raise your awareness around what you're doing right now and what you deserve. Because you don't deserve to be in this situation. Again, what are we calling it? What is it? It's a repeated cycle of abuse, devaluation, and positive reinforcement, right? It's coercive control. It's threatening behavior. It's incidences of violence. And it doesn't have to be physical violence, emotional violence, verbal violence, right? Trauma bonded relationships, when we get down to it, they are fantasies. They're built. It's like a house of cards, you know? You are really in love with what you wish the other person, or who you wish the other person was. And that's really not who they are. And you know this if you're in this situation, that once that initial phase of sort of bliss, that the love bombing phase is over and the devaluing begins, every time there's a rupture. And then the dysfunctional repair that happens, that's like people who are fighting and then having sex, where they might apologize, or maybe they're going to shower you with all of this positivity and love and affection and praise, maybe gifts, maybe even remorse. More oxytocin is released every single time that you go through that cycle. And so now you're bonding even more tightly to the other person. So listen, this doesn't all look exactly the same, right? But the two main characteristics that we want to look at is that it's a cycle for sure. And if you, now that you're thinking about it in that way, the perpetrator is depending on that intermittent reinforcement, the cycle of abuse. So for sure, it's a cycle. So for you, if you're the person who's being victimized by this, it's easier, right? If the thing was entirely bad, if there was nothing good about it, if the sex was terrible, if the person, you had no positive experiences. But the problem is when the abusive person does offer kindness, right? In the repair stage, it keeps that hope going that like it could change. So if they occasionally treat you well, they occasionally think of you, you know, they occasionally call you their soulmate or take you out or tell you it's going to be okay. That is so confusing, right? And disarming, because in our minds, we can be like, oh my God, it's changing. But it's not changing if you're in this cycle. And the second thing that we know for sure is in there is the power imbalance. So that's another thing that you can look for. So I hope that you learned something, everything that you need to know about this. And questions to ask yourself will be in the guide, terricole.com/guide. And I just want to leave you with this thought. You deserve healthy love. You deserve to be cherished. You deserve to feel that way in your relationship. So this might be a moment in time for you to get honest with yourself. We can consider this a potential power pivot in your life, because being in abusive relationships takes a shit ton of bandwidth that could be going to creating something that could change the world, you know? So I hope this added value to your life. I am here to walk you through the process. I've got lots and lots of videos on this stuff, lots of free content for you. You don't have to stay in this situation. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.